Hey all, Alex here with Tech Corner. Sorry I haven't been on YouTube for a while. My husband had some medical issues, so I've been taking care of him, and I've been having some medical issues, so I've been taking care of myself as well. But things are trending back up, so that's a good thing. So I did want to talk to you about a new device I recently got a few months ago, probably a month ago, the Samsung Galaxy Tab S11. I originally, long time, probably a few years ago, I got a Samsung tablet because I was interested in, because I was in the Apple ecosystem. So I was like, okay, let me try a Samsung tablet. Tried it for like maybe a week or two and then actually returned it because I was just so disappointed in the use of it. So I was like, well, now that I've got the Pixel and have that device now, I'm like, well, let me try the Android tablet. Let me see if I like it or if I can get back into the Android tablet world. Now, the reason I picked Samsung over all the other tablets is Samsung is pretty much the leading tablet. At least to me, it seems like they're the leading company for tablets, for Android devices. Google used to have a tablet. They kind of sort of have a home tablet thing, but it's really not useful for what I'm going to be using it for which is much more advanced productivity. So I went with Samsung. I'm actually going to consider probably my next Android phone. I am going to consider getting a Samsung because I have to admit the Pixel's performance I'm not really impressed with, and from what I've heard from rumors through the grapevine for their next Pixel Fold device, I heard the specs are not going to be that impressive either with their G6 chip. Now they could change that, but I might consider getting a Samsung Fold phone as my next Android phone. That way I can also have that integrated with this, which is really kind of cool, which is kind of like if you're familiar with in the iOS environments, I guess it's called Sidecar, or where a handoff where you get a phone call, you can get it on your tablet screen, and vice versa, and make calls through your tablet screen and all that. So I'm gonna probably consider that, so we'll see if that's the case. But I kind of wanted to kind of go over some of the things I like about the Android phone, the Android device, the Samsung device, the pros and the cons. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I'm going to start with the kind of the cons, and then I'll end with the pros. So the Face ID biometrics, it's okay. It's not a true like Face ID like Apple has, where it can use LiDAR and really pick up your face and all that. So yes, there are, depending on what situation you are, there can be complications with the Face ID, and a lot of times you have to use I have to use my PIN or pattern. Now the cool thing they do have is a thing where if you have like a Bluetooth mouse connected, you can use that, and that'll prevent your screen kind of from locking because your mouse is right next to your device, which is kind of cool. So that becomes really handy. So I have to say, one of the things I wish for a tablet of this price, because I almost paid pretty much, I think, $2,000 for this in the US. I really wish Samsung would have put a eSIM in here, and because there's a lot of times, I used to have an iPad without eSIM and all that, and you could tether it to your phone and all that, but I just like the simplicity of just the eSIM. It just works. You don't have to connect it to anything. It just works. And I wish Samsung would do that. They do have it's kind of weird, like their old lower end models have eSIMs, but their higher end, the Ultra, of course they decide, oh, well, they don't need an eSIM. Why would they want one? So that's one thing I wish, if Samsung's watching, it would be really nice to have an eSIM as built-in for, especially an Ultra device. Another thing I was really kind of shocked about was, I have to say, because I do a lot of Photoshop and Affinity Photo, and they really don't have an app for that, like an actual, like they have for the iPad, where it's like the desktop alternative to Photoshop for the iPad. They don't have anything like that in the Android tablet at all, and it would have been really nice to have, because then it's like if I wanted to do some Photoshop or even Affinity Photo, it'd be really cool. Hopefully Affinity Photo, if you're watching, it would be really cool to actually create an Android app because that would be really nice. I know the challenges with Android versus iPhone, and one of the biggest reasons is because there's so many Android devices out there, so it's really hard for them to make an app that works across the majority of the applications, and that's the one challenge, you know, with having multiple Android devices versus iOS. You're only making it for iPhones or iPads and so on, and you don't have to worry about having to design for other companies with that operating system. Let's see, what else? Give me a second. Okay, there we go. Yes, so for a note-taking app, I've been playing around with OneNote, because I, of course, wanted to find like a version that could work across Windows, Mac, iOS devices, Android devices, finding like a note taker that works on all platforms and that has, you know, some capabilities. I've kind of stuck with OneNote. I'm playing around with it to see how I like it compared to other notes. Unfortunately, I like to have, you know, a lot of folder structures and all that. That's one of the reasons I originally started with Evernote when they came out. And one of the challenges that made me move from Evernote to Apple Notes was the folder structure, because you could only have 2 layers versus Apple Notes you can have multiple folder structure and layers and stuff, which was really nice. And that's the same thing with OneNote, because I recently just tried just to see if maybe Evernote maybe changed it, and alas, they have not. They're still in that parent folder and subfolder, and that's it. You can't have any other, you know, subfolders under the subfolders, unfortunately. So that is definitely a nuisance. But yeah, so far OneNote is overall pretty good. There are some stuff that I wish they would incorporate from Apple Notes to OneNote, but again, there's also the features in OneNote I like that I would love them, Apple Notes, to incorporate as well. So it's, you know, so I'm playing around with OneNote, so we'll see how I like it, or if anyone knows any other good alternatives that are like Apple Notes that can go across all devices. That would be awesome. Of course, it would be awesome if Apple just made Apple Notes work on all devices, but I doubt they are going to do that, so we're stuck with OneNote. The other thing I also wish they would have that Apple does have is it'd be cool to be able to lock apps quickly and easily. You have to create like a secure folder, and I'll do another video where I'll walk you through how to do that. So you basically create a secure folder, and then you add the apps you want in that secure folder, and then basically it's literally like setting up that app from scratch, which is kind of interesting. So, but that is pretty much the cons I found so far regarding this Samsung tablet. Now to talk about the pros, there's a lot of great features I love about this, and shockingly, I've been using this more than my iPad. One of the things I love is the wider screen. It's basically the same height as the iPad Pro 13-inch, but it's just like 1.5 inches wider, which is really nice. It just makes videos look really cool, and just, you know, gives a nice view. The other thing I love is multi-user mode, and this is absolutely wonderful because if you want to be able to hand your tablet to someone, or if you're doing like a YouTube channel like I am, it's nice. I can have my personal user account, and then I can have my Tech Corner user account, and then I can even have a guest one. So if I hand it to a family member and they want to browse stuff, I can flip to guest mode. They can do whatever they need to. Once they flip it back to my account, it clears out all their information in the guest user account, and then that way someone else can go in there and use it again as a guest without all that information. So that is one of the really, really neat things I love about this, is the user guest mode. The other thing I also like about this is I like having, it's really nice with, if you're in an enterprise environment, like work environment, it's nice that Android cocoons your work environment and your personal environment into 2 separate sections. So you can only access your work stuff in one area and your personal stuff in the other, and they can't cross, which is really, really nice. So you don't have to worry about accidentally sending something from your personal files to your work files, and it's like, oops, didn't mean to send that. it's really hard to do that, which is a really neat thing. So I can walk people through that in a later video on how to do that and what that looks like. The other thing I love is Dex mode, and Dex mode is absolutely amazing, and it's where you can kind of create window mode. So it's nice. You can drag and drop. You can enable Dex mode really quick. So if I click here, yep, we're gonna hit next. Yep, cool. So now, of course, this makes it a little bit smaller. Then I can drop some stuff in here. Ooh, let's see if it'll let. There we go. There we go. And then let's see, can I pin it? Let's do pin it down here. But yeah, so it goes into window mode, and then you can push it over from one side to the other if you want. You can put it in the corner if you want, I think. Or no. So there you go. And you can have multiple windows on top of windows, which is really neat. So if I want to go to here, here's this one, and then I can do that. There we go. So then I can push this over here. And you can also create like favorites. So if you have like, like a lot of times for my work, I have my Outlook and Teams as a group. So you can make that a favorite, and you can just click on it and it'll have those automatically show up, which is really neat. So that's another really neat feature I love about Samsung. I tried the Google one on Google Pixel. It's not that great. Unfortunately, it's kind of really clunky and slow, and I don't think I'll ever use it, even if I had to in an emergency, like, okay, well, I need a remote into someone's computer, plug in a monitor, use a desktop. I don't know whether I would ever use that because it's just so slow. Now, maybe they'll improve it later on, but as of right now, it's not usable. But on the Samsung, it's wonderful. It's really neat. I do have to say it would be kind of nice to have, like, to enable Dex mode, because it's kind of like once you set it up, it's hard to kind of flip between them. So that is a challenge. But then you can add also desktops, which is kind of nice. So you can have up to 4 desktops, and you can have kind of different configurations for each desktop, which is really neat. And then you can swipe between the desktops if you want. So go here, go back here. You can do that, which is really cool. Another thing I love about Android pretty much overall is the live wallpapers. It's a really neat feature. Yeah, Apple has their dynamic wallpapers, but I don't consider it live because you have to press and hold to make things animate, versus on the Android, it just automatically animates. And there's some cool apps out there that you can actually take like your own videos and stuff. If you do video and landscape videos and stuff, you can make those your actual wallpaper if you want, which is really cool. I usually make them like 2 minutes, so that way you don't see like a loop, because a lot of times like the apps I see, they do like a 10-second loop, and I'm like, no, I do not want that. I want to see the thing loop. But within 2 minutes, I'm like, yeah, that should be fine, because I'm not going to see that. I'm not going to stay on my home screen for 2 minutes watching my video. So that's another thing I really like. The other thing I also like is you can organize apps once they're in your app folder, which is really neat. So that's actually a really nice feature, which is really nice. So you can just literally just, so you can just kind of, so one thing you have to do is you have to kind of get out of Dex mode. So you kind of go here, zip out of here, go here, and then it seems like once you're in this mode, you can, if I go to Command A, Control A, I think, or Alt A, there we go. So I should be able to now move these, yeah, there we go. So you do have to be out of Dex mode in order to kind of move your different applications within your app drawer into folders. I don't know why it doesn't work in Dex mode, but it doesn't. So I could, move all my Samsung together. I can move all the Google stuff together, which is really nice. So I can just kind of keep everything together. The other nice part is you can even, hit the little plus sign, and you can automatically pick which apps you want to have in that folder, which is really cool. So if you don't want to drag and drop, you can just go from the list and do it that way, which is really neat. And if I go here, and then if I go here, Go Samsung. There we go. Cool. And then you can also set it up so you can organize, you can color code your folders. So if you want to make them by color, I find that to be really useful because then I can just hone in on that specific color and find then I don't even have to look at the name. I can be like, okay, red is medical or green is entertainment and so on. So that's another really neat thing. Another cool thing is they do have a little app drawer. And I don't know if it will show up. Let's see if I can use it. Let me add something to my screen here. To figure that out, but yeah. So yeah, you can add home screens. Of course, you got widgets, which everyone's familiar with, which is kind of nice. Let's see if I right click. No, I think that's now. I think so. But yeah, so you can do that. Uninstall, remove. Yep. So quick shortcuts. So yeah, so of course you got widgets. It is a little clunky with the widgets, I found. Sometimes like some will work and then when I add a new widget, it won't go to that other screen, even though there's enough space for it. It's kind of weird. It's, I think, a bug with Android or with Samsung. But overall, I really do like using this tablet. It's really nice having the S Pen. It's nice to write on. I would have to say I like writing it using this more to write on versus the Apple Pencil, because the Apple Pencil feels just too slippery versus this feels more kind of like a pencil, which is really nice. Of course, people complained, that the Bluetooth feature is, because the old S Pen had Bluetooth and you could use, air gestures to pause videos or backtrack or whatever. I mean, it's a cool little gimmick. I don't know if it's practical. I mean, you could use, the command words to, pause or navigate using your voice, which, I mean, seems a little bit easier than having to use a pen. I mean, unless you want to go wand style and feel like you're a wizard, you could do that. But yeah, I have to admit, overall, I'm liking the Samsung Galaxy Tab S11 Ultra. I'm going to be creating more videos on kind of the different features and the different things you can do with it. So if you're interested in learning more about it, feel free to stay tuned and subscribe to my channel. It's totally free and supports the channel. And otherwise, hopefully you found this video informative. If you did, feel free to throw a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.